You're listening to Drummer Daily, the only daily podcast just for drummers. Hey, if you want to get better at playing with a click track, and who doesn't, go to boomclick.net/start today. Hey there again, welcome back to Drummer Daily. I'm so happy you're here. So today I'm going to talk about something kind of cool, but I do want to mention, I'm not sure when you're hearing this, but I know that there was a couple of episodes ago where I mentioned my drum intensives, and chances are if you're hearing this anytime after the day it comes out, it most likely is sold out. I couldn't believe how overwhelming the response was to that, and I've been keeping it. You can still go there and check it out, by the way. If you go to drumintensive.com, I keep a running count at the top of the page of how many spots are gone. So you can pretty quickly see if those spots are filled up or not. That counter, I can't stand this when people do this, but there are people who, trust me, I know this for a fact, there are people who do things like this, and when they post that number up there, it's not real. It's just trying to make you hurry and do something. That is not the case with this page. I've been going in every time someone locks in some dates or locks in their spot for the intensive. I've been updating the number to accurately reflect how many spots are gone and how many are still open. So anyway, if you go to drumintensive.com and there's still in the application form, or the link to apply is still there, that means that all the slots aren't gone yet. But the way things are going, I think it'll be full really soon. But if you're like, oh man, like if you go to apply and you see like, oh, there's 9 of 10 spots gone or whatever, and if you get there and you see that, like, oh, I have no chance, go ahead and apply anyway, because I think what I'm going to do, just based on the number of applications that have come in already, I think what I'm going to do is, if I don't end up picking you for the one-on-one intensive, I'm planning on adding maybe 1, maybe 2 group intensives, small group intensives, which will be very similar to the one-on-one, but they'll be on a set date, so I won't be able to ask you what dates you want to be on, but I'll give you a chance to sign up for that. It'll be a little easier to get into those. It'll be a little more affordable, and there'll be it'll be a very similar experience, just not one-on-one with me. So anyway, go ahead and apply even if you're not sure if you're going to make it in, because that will get you a spot and get you first to be notified about the group intensive. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that really quick. So today, drum stuff, I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I do. I've mentioned before, whenever some of the things that I like to do when I sit down, I set my drums up in a room for the first time. Like, for example, if I'm on tour, or even if I'm not, like if I'm just setting up at church again and I haven't been in a while, I haven't played every week. Something that I'll do that a couple of things that I do actually to get a feel for the room. Now, I've talked before about listening to your drums in the room and trying to get an understanding for how your drums really respond in the room, so that when you play, you know how your drums are coming across, even if you can't hear them very well. And so I came across someone on a forum somewhere recently who asked basically that same question, but was like, hey, I'm stuck behind. The additional part was, I'm stuck behind a drum shield, or no, I have in-ear monitors in. It wasn't a drum shield. I have in-ear monitors in, and when I play in the room, when we all get started playing, my in-ear monitor mix is pretty terrible, and so it's really hard to hear myself play. And I'm not very confident in if I'm playing too loud or kind of how things are going. So I kind of gave some, in response to that, I listed out a few things that I do specifically to listen to my drums when I first get into a room. And I think this would help this person who mentioned this, because what I do, even if I'm counting on my in-ear monitors, I don't want to get in a situation where if something crazy happens with my in-ear monitors, I'm completely debilitated. I can't play. So what I want to do is I want to get a really accurate feel for the drums in the room by themselves so I can understand my drums. And then And then that way, when I start playing with a band, I can basically have like a profile of the room in my mind that I'm playing with. And even if I can't hear the drums really well, I know what my drums sound like, so I can basically play based on the feel of myself hitting the drums versus the sound. Now, this is one of the situations I've talked about before where sometimes playing drums feels like work. This would be one of those times, and this is a specific instance where it might feel like work. So I'm not saying I enjoy playing this way, but I'm saying that if I find myself in this situation, having these tools in my tool bag let me cope with it, let me get through it, let me at least get through and keep things together and find some kind of semblance of at least peace about what I was able to contribute as a drummer. All right, so there are 3 things that I do when I sit down at my drums and I set them up in a new room. And I do this every time. And really, all 3 of these are listening. So it's 3 things that I listen for when I sit down at the drums. And I'm going to list those off for you now. I'm talk about each one. Number 1, of course, is I listen for volume. How loud are my drums coming across in the room? And sometimes I might have to have someone else play them and me go stand out there. But I don't just use my ears when I do this. I also use my eyes. I look at what kind of surfaces are covering the room. A lot of times, like modern kind of mega churches that have like the flat floor and then the sloped kind of stadium style seats in the back, those have a lot of sound treatment and they're fairly dead. But there are, when I tour with All Sons and Daughters, we'll play in like all different kinds of denominations. So some, Presbyterian churches or something a little more traditional, maybe I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to say something wrong. I don't know. I think Presbyterian churches are generally more traditionally designed. I could be totally wrong about that. Please don't write me angry letters or angry emails. Forgive me. There are some churches that have more traditional layouts. They have marble floors and lots of hard surfaces all over the place. And those resonate and reverb and it's loud in the room. And so I use my eyes to help inform me about how loud my drums are going to be. But also I do use my ears to hear how loud they are. And so I think about that. The second thing I listen for is, I just mentioned it, reverb. So I listen to how much my drums are echoing, kind of drifting out into the room, and how long, when I hit my snare one time, for example, how long is that sound after? How long is that sound sticking around in the room? Because the reverb of the drums should inform my playing and what I choose to play. If there's a really long reverb tail, we call it in the sound world, the tail, the sound sticks around for a while after I hit the drum. It hangs in the air. If that's the case, then, and I start playing these really fast ghost notes and these intricate beats that are really fast and full of notes, what's going to happen is it's just going to build up this rumble, this wall of incomprehensible nonsense as far as drums go. It's just going to well up as nothing. If I play these really fast notes, you're not going to be able to make out the individual details of each of those notes. So I need to let the reverb of the room inform my playing. I might choose on this particular situation to space my notes out further, play something simpler, don't fill all that stuff in. It's just going to make things harder to understand. You don't get points for looking like you're playing fast in music. You get points for how you sound. And we don't want to just fill up all the room and not think about it with what people can actually perceive and understand and hear when you're playing the drums. And then one more thing, and this is a big one that I don't think people talk about or think about enough. And this is, I listen for the EQ response of the room. And what I mean is, I also, and this couples in with the PA that's in the room, the speakers that are in the room. So hit those toms, hit that kick drum, and hopefully by then the PA will be up and running. But even if it's not, listen and hear, is there a lot of low end coming out with your kick drum? When you hit those toms, they sound like, thunder banging, like amazing, deep, low, heavy, tribal drums? Or do they sound really thin and papery? And I'm not talking about how you've tuned them. I'm talking about how they sound out in the room. Because the room can really destroy the way a drum sounds relative to how it sounds when you just tune it in isolation. And the reason why this matters is, let's say you're playing one of those big, drum builds, this big tribal. doom, doom, da, those big things. And you don't realize it, but out front it sounds like you're hitting a couple of pieces of paper. It doesn't sound like what you want it to hear. Well, if you play these big thunderous parts, but it sounds like you're smacking a couple of pieces of paper on a ruler, it doesn't have the effect that you're going for, and it actually creates confusion to a listener. It sounds weird, it doesn't sound right, and it's tough to, it's harmful. It's harmful, I guess I would say. People don't like to be confused when they listen to music, unless like you're listening to like Bjork or something. So people generally speaking don't like to be confused. And so doing these, you have to play with the sound that you're getting. And I think that's the big takeaway from all of this is adapt your playing to what you're hearing, adapt the parts to what you're playing. It makes a big difference. If your drums are just sounding small and tight today, then play small and tight parts. Don't fight against what you're getting, play with what you're getting from the drums. That can take you so far. No one's gonna say, oh man, I can't believe you were able to make those, to bang out that huge drum part when the drum sounded so terrible. No, they're gonna say, what were you doing? Like that was goofy, that was nonsense. So anyway, play with the sound you're getting, not the sound you hope you're getting, you hope you'll have one day, I guess I'll say. It's a good thing to follow through with. So anyway, use your ears when you set your drums up, and use your ears to inform how you play. If you pay attention to those three things when you play by yourself before anyone else is playing, then if something goes wrong or you can't hear yourself very well during the gig or whatever it is, refer back to how it felt to play at different volume levels, different types of patterns when you were checking and hearing yourself in the room earlier. Memorize those things. You have to put things in your tool bag ahead of time. You may not need them, but you got to do the work every time to get them in your bag so that then when the situation comes up, you are prepared for the 1 time out of 10 where that happens. All right, hope this was helpful to you, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.